You're listening to This Week in Tennis with Phil Naessens. Welcome to This Week in Tennis, the tennis show with an edge. I'm Phil Naessens, and each and every week I'll be bringing you stories from the tennis world, and sometimes even dealing with issues that no one else seems to want to touch. And whether you're listening on the Fat Sports Radio Network, Max Sports channels, the All Sports website SportsKings.com, via iTunes, or on its own page at PhilNaessens.com, I'm happy to have you here. Last week's show brought a lot of responses. A lot of people thought I was accusing Roger Federer of tanking a tennis match. I did no such thing. I would never do that. See, unlike some who seem to think that it's easy to tell if someone's tanking or not, I don't think it's that easy. All right, and it's not that cut and dry. I offered different alternatives and let you make your own mind up. I know that I have, and I'll keep that opinion to myself. The bottom line was this. I was responding to someone who is outside the tennis world who made an opinion, an ill-informed opinion, and a lot of people took it and ran with it. And we don't want to have that happen. We don't want to see people's reputations destroyed, especially people who are in the industry, especially people who have 17 majors and who has placed or is highly respected for his integrity. And we didn't want that to happen. And more importantly, we didn't want that great achievement, the gold medal, being taken away from Andy Murray. We don't want anyone to ever think that Andy Murray didn't deserve to win that gold medal, because he did. He still made the shots no matter what happened. No matter what happened. And that's what I wanted to make sure was perfectly clear. Apparently I didn't. Some people, they just, hear what they want to hear. Never did I insinuate that Roger Federer tanked the gold medal match. I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do that. Although I do have my own opinion, it's my opinion, and we'll leave it at that. But it was a great Olympics, and the U.S. Open is, less than 8 days away. It's beautiful, huh? Beautiful. Beautiful. I can't wait for that tennis tournament to happen. And we have some news coming out of there. Some things are definitely changing. We're going to take a look at some things. The wild cards are out. We're going to jump through that hoop. And then we're going to take a little bit of a look at what's happening down in Cincinnati this week. But first up, as always, I like to try to answer one of your questions. And today's question was interesting. Dear Phil, I really enjoyed the Olympics because we got to see the top players on both sides of the tour playing doubles. Why doesn't this happen more often, and why isn't it shown on TV? Well, I guess the answer isn't easy. The top players used to play doubles. John McEnroe loved playing doubles. He was awfully good at it. Back in the days, I would say back before, 1988, money was an issue. There wasn't a lot of money being made. Andre Agassi was the very first tennis player to earn $1 million in prize money in a season. So there wasn't the money that's running around nowadays. You've got guys who are ranked 80 in the world that made more this year than some guys made in their entire careers. So guys play doubles, for a variety of reasons. One of those being is the game was different back then. You had serve and volley, you had to make volleys, and the best way to practice all that is to play doubles. And that's one of the reasons a lot of guys played doubles, was to practice for singles. They would prefer to play a doubles match, make some money, as opposed to practicing for whatever time. There's a school of thought, and I'm one of those people who agree with this, that playing doubles makes you a better singles player, because you practice the different strokes that you don't normally practice when you're playing singles. You work on your volleys. You hit good approaches. You really have to have a good return to serve to play doubles. And those are beneficial weapons in singles. And especially back then when you had the racket technology at that time. And that was important. So that had a lot to do with it. Money and practice. Nowadays, these guys are making a large amount of money, so they don't really need that. A lot of these guys bring their own hitting partners with them, and they bring their own entourage who are able to fulfill all their needs. They have more time on the court. That's another thing. One other thing, though, too, that you have to remember, back in the early days of the ATP and prior to that, when you lost your tennis match, you lost your hotel room and whatever else, what other amenities came with that. Now, even if you lose in the first round, you can stay at the hotel the entire week. You can still make yourself available to all the amenities that everyone else gets, meaning the buffet, whatever, all kinds of things. Back then, you couldn't do that. So guys would play doubles to keep their hotel room. It was that simple. One of the reasons, too, and I'm kind of jumping around because this is a tough question to answer, really. One of the reasons that a lot of the top guys don't play also is because, for example, if they're playing a semifinal match in singles, they're probably not going to be interested in playing that doubles match. So they're probably going to withdraw from it, and it's going to hurt their partner. And a lot of guys don't want to do that. Roger Federer played doubles early in his career, and he stopped for that reason, because he wanted to focus on his singles. And that's fair enough. But sometimes they do put these guys out there, as a condition to their guarantee or whatever their agreement was to participate in an event. Sometimes, once in a while, you might see a Federer Nadal doubles team or whatever. But very rarely do you see that anymore. You don't see these guys playing doubles much. Even guys ranked 30, 40, 50 in the world aren't really playing doubles that much. They're concentrating on singles. You see a few guys here and there, but by and large, they just don't bother with it. And that's probably why you don't see it on TV as well, because you don't have the names to draw the fans, to draw the sponsors, to pay the bills. Somebody's got to pay for that airtime, and it's expensive, by the way. So that's one of the reasons you don't see it. Now, at Grand Slams, sometimes they show doubles. Now, the Tennis Channel, I know they do, but like Eurosport, they might show the final only, or if there's some filler time in the middle of the night, they want to kill an hour, they might show a little doubles. But by and large, it's just not very popular for TV. It's not very popular even at the venues, really. And it's kind of surprising because the majority of recreational players at tennis clubs normally play doubles. So you would think there'd be more interest. There probably is, but from a standpoint of a network offering TV time to doubles, unless you get the Roger Federers and the Nadals and the Djokovic's and the Murrays and the Del Potros out there playing doubles week in and week out, you're just not going to see it. It just doesn't make sense to do that. And I guess that's my best answer. All right. When I return, we're going to take a look at some news about the U.S. Open. You're listening to This Week in Tennis with Phil Naessens. If you are looking for a tennis show with an edge, then look no further than This Week in Tennis with Phil Naessens. You can find it on iTunes by searching Phil Naessens Media or by visiting the homepage at philnaessens.webs.com. Been dreaming of that Greek vacation? Well, if you have, then you might want to check out the folks at the Aridi Grand Hotel located in beautiful Corfu, Greece. The Aridi Grand Hotel is world-renowned for their cuisine as well as the legendary Greek hospitality. You can find them at aridihotel.com or email them at reservations@aridihotel.com. On the Ice with Phil Naessens is a show dedicated to NHL hockey from a fan standpoint. You can find us on iTunes by searching Phil Naessens Media or by visiting the homepage at philnaessens.webs.com. The Phil Naessens Show is a sports variety show focusing on the sports of baseball, basketball, boxing, and golf. Hard-hitting commentary and interviews with leading sports journalists makes this show what it is, the hardest-hitting show anywhere. You can find us on iTunes by searching Phil Naessens Media or by visiting the homepage at philnaessens.webs.com. Are you tired of the same boring NC2A and NFL football shows that are long on speculation and short on facts? If so, then please check out the Stiff Arm Podcast with Jamie, Mr. Adeline Smith, and Phil Naessens. You can find them on iTunes by searching Phil Naessens Media or by visiting their homepage at philnaessens.webs.com. All right, we're back. You know, it's a darn shame that the guys aren't playing doubles anymore. The girls do sometimes, but it's a darn shame. But you know something? The U.S. Open is coming up here very quickly. And unfortunately, and this is really no surprise to people who are inside the profession, you know, we've expected to see this for a long time. But Rafael Nadal has withdrawn from the U.S. Open. It's not surprising, really. You know, Rafael Nadal's had issues with his knees for years. And this is nothing new. You know, a lot of people feel like, look, this is one of those situations where shutting him down for a very long time is beneficial to his life. You know, he's got serious issues with his knees. There are people on the inside who've told me that they kind of are concerned about his future as a human being because of his knees. And his family did the right thing by shutting him down. Oh, I don't know when he's coming back. I hope he does. I really hope he does. But I hope it's because he's healthy. He doesn't need the money anymore. He's going to go down as one of the greatest tennis players of all time. Surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. One of the class acts on the tour. One of the most grateful, humble human beings you're ever going to meet. He's not like, say, the number 2 and 4 players in the world. He's a different character because he has character. He's a good kid. We wish him all the best. You know, some players have chimed in. They're sad that he's not there. Well, that's what do you want them to say? Of course, they're not unhappy that he's not there because he is one of the favorites of every tennis tournament he plays in. You know, it's a pity, though, from the fan standpoint, because it's a lot of fun watching him play. You know, there's certain players out there who have it and other players who don't. And Rafael Nadal has it. And we hope that he returns healthy if he returns. We don't know for sure. But most importantly, we want him to be healthy. Like I said, that's the main thing. You know, these are young guys. When you think about the tennis career is very short compared to real life. And who wants to go through life with knee replacement surgeries and all kinds of things? You know, he's done more than most human beings will ever do at whatever they do. And he's done it with a style and with a grace that is really unmatched. And the humility is there too. He's going to be missed. And we hope he comes back, but only if he's healthy. That's the key here. So we wish him all the best. In other news, Li Na has hired a new coach, and she's fired her old coach. It's kind of funny. She hired Justine Henen's former coach, Carlos Rodriguez. And, of course, she had to fire her coach, and unfortunately, it was her husband. You see that a lot in the women's tour, that coaches are either their boyfriends or their husbands. And, well, they're not always the best coaches out there, but it's better than traveling the world by yourself. And this way, you've got someone there on your side, and hopefully. But it's also got to be difficult to work with your spouse, especially when they're training you, because coaches want their players to win. Sometimes they work pretty hard, and they work their players very hard, and it's tough. But Li Na has fired her coach. He's going to remain as her hitting partner, though, which is probably a good, much better thing for their household. And we wish her all the best. The wild cards for the U.S. Open also are out. And this is great. This is absolutely amazing. Melanie Oden got a wild card. You remember her, right? 2009, she made it to the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open and hasn't done anything since. And, well, that kind of happens. That happens a lot more than people think. You know, people say to me, Phil, you're always so hard, it seems, on these young people. You don't give them a chance. Well, it's because, quite frankly, some people want me to put these guys up as the next big thing when their sample size of matches that we've seen are just small. We like to examine more than just one tennis tournament before we label someone the next big thing. Anyone can get hot for 2 weeks. We've seen this before. We've seen a lot of different ladies get hot and then just completely fall off the radar for the same reasons. You know, anyone can get hot for a week or two. And Melanie's got a chance now to enter the U.S. Open because she can't get in any other way. She won't qualify. She hasn't played well since then. Maybe it's the pressure of instant success. Maybe there's some internal issues there with her family. Lord knows. But I do remember this. When she got to the place she got to in the quarterfinals, all kinds of things were coming out about her mom and all these things. And that's got to be tough, too. Nobody wants to read a bunch of stuff about their family in the newspaper. And that's got to be tough. But she was given a wild card, and that's a good thing. Other Americans receiving wild cards are Bethany Mattek-Sands, Nicole Gibbs, Mallory Burdett, Victoria Duval, and Julia Cohen. Gibbs and Burdett were this year's NCAA singles finalists, and Duval won the USTA Girls 18 championships. And then also receiving wildcards were Australia's Casey Dellacqua and France's Kristina Milanovic. They're both in because they have a reciprocal agreement, meaning that the French and the Australian federations give a wildcard to an American player in exchange for one at the U.S. Open. And I think that's a great thing. It's a great thing. We wish all 8 of these ladies luck. My favorite out of this whole bunch will always be Casey Dellacqua. I still remember her at the Australian Open a couple years ago, winning that big tennis match, and she was just the happiest kid on earth. You know, she hasn't had that same success that she did at that tournament, but she was a lot of fun to watch, and we enjoy watching her, especially in a sport that doesn't really attract too many knowledgeable tennis people, because it's just too hard to predict. And then the men's side of things, the wild cards were issued for them as well. And 2 guys who received wild cards were Leighton Hewitt and James Blake. Now, Leighton Hewitt's won the U.S. Open a couple of times. That's a no-brainer giving him a wild card. It's kind of sad to see Rocky down there ranked the way he is. I still remember his very first professional tennis tournament down in Adelaide, Australia, when he defeated Andre Agassi in the final. And that was quite a match. And that's when he kind of like jumped on the tour. He was 15 years old. He was this little guy, counter puncher, just ran around the place like Michael Chang with a bigger forehand. And then, come on! You know, that probably wasn't necessary, but needless to say, Rocky is in the U.S. Open. I have to say this is probably going to be his last one. You know, I don't know how much longer he wants to play. Who knows? But it would seem to me that a former world number 1, a 4-time Grand Slam winner, would probably not want to live in the land of mediocrity. And I just think maybe he just wants to say goodbye. Hopefully that's what it is. We'll see. And then James Blake. James Blake's a great story, you guys. A really great story. Busted his neck, was paralyzed. He had some other issues. He had some facial tics or some darn thing. Shingles, I guess it was. And he was out for a considerable long time. I was friends with his father. His father and I used to do tennis camps in Harlem, New York. His father was a great guy. James is a great kid. But I'm not so sure he deserves a wild card for the U.S. Open, an automatic bid into the round of 128. I don't think he deserves that. Maybe they should have given him a wild card to play in the qualifiers, because quite frankly, James Blake hasn't done anything lately, you know. But nostalgia being what it is, probably they gave him the wild card simply because of that amazing tennis match, that amazing night match against Andre Agassi a few years back. Who can forget that? Blake up 5-3 in the fifth set, and here comes Andre. Break a serve. Boom, boom, fire. And it was all Andre Agassi. Well, that was great. Now, the other American winner, wild card recipients, our NCAA singles champion, Steven Johnson. The USTA boys 18s singles champion, Denis Novikov. The 2010 U.S. Open boys singles finalists, Jack Sock and Denis Kudla, and Rajiv Ram, who's ranked number 100. So that cutoff is tough. France's Guillaume Ruffin also got a wild card. And like I said before, Hewitt and Ruffin were reciprocal entries, given wild cards because Australia and France tennis federations give wild cards to an American. And that's what that is right there, folks. That's what that is. We're really looking forward to it. I'll tell you what, if you get a chance, if you're down in Flushing Meadows, you take that 7 train, or if you're in New York City, you get on that 7 train, and you go down there and watch those qualifiers. You want to see some great tennis. And it'll be free, I'm sure. And it'll be a lot of fun. All right, when I return, we're going to take a brief look at what's happening down in Cincinnati. You're listening to This Week in Tennis with Phil Naessens. If you are looking for a tennis show with an edge, then look no further than This Week in Tennis with Phil Naessens. You can find it on iTunes by searching Phil Naessens Media or by visiting the homepage at philnaessens.webs.com. Been dreaming of that Greek vacation? Well, if you have, then you might want to check out the folks at the Aridi Grand Hotel located in beautiful Corfu, Greece. The Aridi Grand Hotel is world-renowned for their cuisine as well as the legendary Greek hospitality. You can find them at aridihotel.com or email them at reservations@aridihotel.com. On the Ice with Phil Naessens is a show dedicated to NHL hockey from a fan standpoint. You can find us on iTunes by searching Phil Naessens Media or by visiting the homepage at philnaessens.webs.com. The Phil Naessens Show is a sports variety show focusing on the sports of baseball, basketball, boxing, and golf. Hard-hitting commentary and interviews with leading sports journalists makes this show what it is, the hardest-hitting show anywhere. You can find us on iTunes by searching Phil Naessens Media or by visiting the homepage at philnaessens.webs.com. Are you tired of the same boring NCAA and NFL football shows that are long on speculation and short on facts? If so, then please check out the Stiff Arm Podcast with Jamie and Mr. Adeline Smith and Phil Naessens. You can find them on iTunes by searching Phil Naessens Media or by visiting their homepage at philnaessens.webs.com. All right, we're back. And things are happening down in Cincinnati, Ohio for the Western and Southern Open. It's a great tournament. It's got a great history. A lot of fun that place is. You know, they let you go to Kings Island and have a blast. So much to do there. Great tennis tournament. Awesome presents and prizes for the players. It's just a fun place to play. A lot of guys love it there. Next to Indianapolis, that was the thing back in the old days. And we are at the semifinal stage of this tournament on both sides of the draw. It's nice to see tournaments where the girls and the guys get to play at the same facility. It's excellent for TV. It's excellent for the fans because you get to see a heck of a lot of tennis. And it gets you fired up for the U.S. Open. And we've got two very interesting matchups on the men's side of things. We have world number 1, Roger Federer, who has just marched through this tennis tournament. He's doing it in a big way, and he takes on surprise semifinalist Stanislaus Wawrinka, his countryman. A lot of people are surprised by Wawrinka, but I'm not, in a way, because quite frankly, this kid can play too. He's been in the shadow of Roger Federer for so long, and it's nice to see him get into these positions. It's unfortunate, though, that he has to play against Roger Federer. Now, you folks who accuse Federer of feeling sorry for Andy Murray, if this was ever a case of someone feeling sorry for someone, I think Fed, and there's our plane. I knew it would be here. Fed would probably feel more sorry for Wawrinka than he would for Murray. But don't count on that either. All right, don't count on that either. These guys have had their little issues in the past. It should be a good tennis match, though. Should be a very good tennis match. But let's face it, Roger Federer is playing really well. He's the old Roger Federer, not that aberration we saw in the gold medal match. A resurgence of a career. He's 31 now, and he's found his way into the semifinals, and I would have to say that he's probably going to win this match in straight sets and get to the final. That's what I think, anyway. And on the other side of the draw, we have Novak Djokovic, the world number 2. It's not a surprise that he's in the final. He won the Toronto Masters, and, well, it was a weak field, and congratulations, he held his points. It's a dog fight to see who will be the world number 1. But he takes on Juan Del Potro. I'm going to tell you something right now. Del Potro is playing like he did a few years ago. He looks healthy for the first time in a long time. He looks motivated for the first time in a long time. He really wants this tournament. He wants to do well at the U.S. Open. He wants to show people that his victory a couple of years ago wasn't a fluke. And a lot of people think it was. I personally don't. You know, he's had his issues with injuries, and that happens to a lot of guys, and they fall off after hitting these heights. It's pretty hard to go further than winning a Grand Slam. You know, it's hard to keep it up. And Del Potro got hurt, but he's back now. And I know this is going to irk a lot of people, and I really don't care. But I think Del Potro's going to beat Novak Djokovic. I don't think Djokovic is playing that great. I don't think he's played well since Australia. I think he's in a rut, and I think Del Potro's going to take advantage of that. This is the type of surface for him to do so, and I have to believe that he not only can win, but will win against Novak Djokovic. Probably go 3 sets, but I think Del Potro, Federer final, and that ought to be interesting in and of itself. And I'm going with Federer. Federer's playing too good. He's playing with confidence. You know, forget about that gold medal match. He's back, and he's back to stay for a while, I believe. I think he enjoys being number 1. Who doesn't? Especially when no one thought he would be. Look for Roger Federer to win on Sunday afternoon and be the champion of the Western and Southern Open. At least that's my prediction anyway. We'll see. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's why they play the matches. And on the women's side of things, we've got, well, you know what? Women's tennis is so unpredictable. It really is. And I don't mean to pick on them or it, but it just is. It's hard to pick a winner anymore because so many different girls are coming out there swinging away and beating people. It's amazing how competitive they are and how close they seem to be in their competitive skills and where they're at in their games. And in the first semifinal, we have Li Na with a brand new coach taking on Venus Williams. And Venus Williams is always great to watch. She loves playing on DecoTurf. This is her surface next to Wimbledon. She gets to bang out that serve of hers. And I believe she's going to. I see Venus Williams beating Li Na, but only if she serves 20 aces. Otherwise, Na's going to beat her. Li Na plays a completely different type of game than Venus. Venus goes for things where Li Na is a little more conservative. But if Venus serves 20 aces in this match, she's going to defeat Li Na. At least that's how I see it. And on the other side, we have Petra Kvitova taking on Angeliki Kerber. This should be a really interesting match because Kerber has been playing well. She defeated Serena Williams 6-4, 6-4. That really wasn't a surprise to me. Serena's played a lot of tennis, and she's won a lot of matches, and, 19 in a row, I believe. And you got to lose sometime, and it's better to lose there in Cincinnati than it is to lose at the U.S. Open. So, not unexpected, not even surprising. Kerber's played pretty well this year. She's found her way to the number 5 in the world, I believe. But Kvitova's playing pretty tough, too. And lefties are tough to play. I don't care who you are. It's hard to play against lefties. You don't see that many. They got that swinger out wide in the ad court. And Kvitova has that. I see Kvitova winning this tennis match simply because she's got more experience. Even though Kerber's playing out of her mind right now and throughout the season, Kvitova's on a mission. She wants to prove that Wimbledon final that she won last year wasn't a fluke. She wants to win the U.S. Open, and to do so, she wants to prove her point. She won last week in Toronto, and now here she's found her way into the semifinal. I believe she's going to defeat Angeliki Kerber and play Venus Williams in the final. And that should be interesting as well, but it's hard for me to pick against the Williams sisters. It really is. I don't like to pick against them. I've made that mistake in the past. I don't like to make that mistake again. And I'm going to say that at the end of the week, at the end of the day, on Sunday afternoon, Venus Williams is going to be the 2012 Western and Southern Open winner. All right, you know what? That's going to wrap it up for this week's This Week in Tennis. Again, whether you're listening to on the Fast Sports Radio Network, Max Sports channels, the amazing All Sports website, SportsKings.com, via iTunes, or PhilNaessens.com, or any number of other places on the interwebs. Thanks for listening. Good night, and enjoy the tennis. And next week, I might have a surprise guest to help me break down